Hello, friends. How are you all? So, I am again coming up with another lecture on Indo US relationship. This lecture is highly important for international relations, which is part of GS2. And this also helps in the essay preparations because if we see the previous year question papers, in the year 2018 and in the other papers as well, there was an essay straight from the international relations, so it helps you in the interview process as well, and sometimes in the prelims as well. Many questions are asked directly or indirectly from the international relations. Two state theory was also asked in the prelims paper previously, so it is highly important. So let's start the relation. What is the basis of relation? If two countries are converging, then there is some basis of convergence. So India and US shares some common values, which are democracy. Both are democracy. US is oldest, and the India is biggest democracy of the world. So this is one of the common point. Then they both want to have a rule-based international system. There should be rule-based order, and they want to promote global security. They both are against terrorism and extremism, stability in the world, economic prosperity through trade, investment, and connectivity. They both want a world which is connected through trade networks and investment. Today, we see the basic contours of relationship between India and US is very diverse. It is spread from economy to people contact to defense and security to cyber security to science and technology to all the fields. There is a kind of convergence between India and USA. If we see the initial relationship, so Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru met US President Truman on a multi-week tour of United States back in 1949. Martin Luther King, we all know, was greatly inspired with the ideals of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent struggle. So he came to India, he stayed for a month, and he was deeply inspired after that. He went to USA back in the year 1959. So this was also one of the close kind of moment for India and US relationship. Then Eisenhower was the first serving US president to visit the country in the year 1959. However, if we see the initial relationship, they were not so close. There were so many attempts, right from the Korean crisis, where India was supporting in North Korea's interest, and Jawaharlal Nehru has issued a statement as well. Then Vietnamese crisis, and so forth. There was a kind of divergence in the relationship. More so, our own neighborhood, Pakistan, was part of Cold War politics, and they were part of alliance like CENTO, which was a military alliance of the Cold War supporting US forces. So this was something which was also an irritant because USA was directly supporting Pakistan's interest at that point of time. PL480 wheat, which was of inferior quality, was also stopped. Why? Because they wanted to change or mold the stand of India. But the then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri denied any kind of change in India's stature, and to enhance self-respect, he gave a clarion call of green evolution. Then there was a healthy relationship between India and USSR. This was because of the legacy of Jawaharlal Nehru and Russia's closeness in the initial years, and then during Mrs. Gandhi, the ties reached to a new height because USSR was someone who supported India in the 1971 war, when USA, Britain, and Pakistan were converging together, and there were news of nuclear submarines reaching India. So at that time, USSR, through its nuclear submarine started guarding India. So this was something which further enhanced the relationship between India and USSR. But slowly, if we see the during the Janata Party government, there was a beginning of reviving the ties between India and USA. And K.C. Pant, defense minister, visited USA in the 1989, because in 1980s, especially after death of demise of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, with the coming of Rajiv Gandhi, he wanted to revive relationship with not only USA but also China. So he took several initiatives with regard to that. Then post Cold War era, Cold War was some kind of blockage for having ties which were spread throughout the world, because the world was divided into the blocks. Then came the era of multi-alignment, because India was free to choose many partners, because world was now changing from dipolar world to a unipolar world, and now it has become multipolar world. So, what happened that during the first half of relationship in the 1990s, it didn't reach to the pinnacle, because there was some kind of coldness, there was some bureaucratic hurdles as well. Uh, there was continued difference with regard to non-proliferation treaty, because back when in 1974, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi tested nuclear test was conducted, there was widespread hue and cry from the United States. So again, they were telling that India had to sign NPT and Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, but India's stand was clear. So this was something which was an irritant, and also that China had supplied M11 missile to Pakistan, and US did not apply any kind of sanctions on China for violating the MTCR. MTCR, they have a cap on uh, the ability of missile in terms of kilometers, payload, etc. They put a cap for this. Then in the 1990s, with the announcing of liberalization policy, many of the United States companies like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and so many of the companies, you name it, they started rushing to Indian market, or started capturing Indian market at that point of time. Then during the Gulf War, India supported refueling rights to US military aircraft, and this was the beginning of uh, growing defense ties. Malabar exercise came into being after that. India's nuclear test, however, in 1998 was a flashpoint, and initially US reaction was something which was not very good for India, and they started taking their hand back from the relationship, but it could not last long because India's stature was rising. However, the Clinton visit was seen as major bright point in the India-US relationship, because after that there was kind of clarity uh, with regard to India, that they are one of the important partners of United States of America, and a clear vision was put forth in for the 21st century. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Bill Clinton, they started having convergence of many of the things, and USA accepted India uh, as someone who is a responsible nuclear state. So, and the focus of America on Kashmir was now very softened. It was more converging with India's stand. So this was also one of the point which made these two countries more closer. Then Bush administration, we all know that George W. Bush was someone who gave new heights to India and U.S. relationship. Uh, he was the one who started increasing the pace of India-U.S. Ties, and he was very a kind of harsh on terrorism, and India was someone who was talking about terrorism for so many years, and no one was listening. But sadly, 9/11 happened, and the view of United States of America about terrorism changed, and view about Pakistan also changed lately when Osama bin Laden was found in the Pakistan itself. So a joint statement was also given in November 2001, where both countries said that they both are targets of terrorism, and they said that it was a barbaric attack because there was also an attack on Legislative Assembly of Kashmir, which was criticized by the American president as well. We see the contours of relationship. So, civil nuclear cooperation, which was finalized in 2007. However, there were some issues with related to the liability and a pool of insurance. So many things which were there, which led to a kind of blockade. However, there was a visit of Prime Minister back in 2014, and many of the issues were resolved. Then defense cooperation, if we see. So in back in 2005, new framework for India-US defense relation was signed. Logistic exchange memorandum of association (LEMOA) was also signed in 2016. COMCASA agreement, which was related to communication and compatibility, was also signed. BACA, Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, was signed back in 2020. Also, Industrial Security Annex to the General Security of Military Information Agreement was also signed in 2019. So it enabled the private sector defense industry to share classified information technology. So a kind of technology transfer could take place. Then back in 2014-15, flagship defense cooperation program, the Defense Trade and Technology Initiative was formally initiated, though talk was going on for so many years. Then 2+2 dialogue mechanism, where U.S. Foreign Minister and Defense Minister and India's Foreign Minister and Defense Minister, they meet annually, and they decide on various contours of relationship, various policies, strategic kind of partnership is being initiated through 2+2 dialogue. Then counterterrorism and internal security. Intelligence sharing mechanism, operational cooperation, common exercises like Malabar, they are conducted, and India-US counterterrorism cooperation initiative was formally announced in the year 2010. Economic and trade ties, if we see, so US is India's largest trading partner, and the trade relations is growing steadily. And it is also one of the most important export market for India. And this had become an irritant as well in the past when Mr. Donald Trump was the president of the United States. So we see energy and climate change is also one of the area where convergence is increasing, and India and US are launching the US-India Climate and Clean Energy Agenda 2030 partnership. So it will focus on core values of cooperation with respect to critical technologies of climate change and energy. Educational ties. There were over 2 lakh Indians in American University in 2019 and 20. So it is one of the favorable destination for Indian students. So India and US are intending to announce a new education and skill development working group. Then technology we see. So US and India Millennium Alliance, which will try to accelerate innovative models to address global development challenges, has been accelerated to address problems arising in health, agriculture, water, energy, and education. Health is also one of the area where convergence can be observed. Global health security agenda, where India and the US has planned to partner with other nations through global health security agenda to accelerate progress toward a world safe and secure from infectious diseases, especially in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. Irritants in the relationship. So the common irritant is the India's ever-growing ties with Russia and India's stand with respect to Russia-Ukraine war. So this was one of the big flashpoint between India and US relationship, and India nevertheless also bought oil from Russia, which was something which was criticized a lot in the US media. However, India's stand was clear, crystal clear, and US had to understand that. Then India stand in the World Trade Organization with regard to agricultural subsidy. It is something which is not liked by United States of America. Then India's generic drug market. So they are raising concerns about patents and all. These there are some common issues also related to India and Iran relationship. However, we had cut down the import of oils from Iran, but this is not something sustainable. It will again arise in the future. So this was an overview between the to see the and analyze the relationship between India and US, and it is highly important for the examination. I hope you all liked it. Thank you very much.